Hi candidates, welcome to another session of Manifested Online Classes. We are still soldiering on with the topic or with the coverage of the syllabus, and in this particular topic or in this particular session, I want us to look on one of the subtopic under public sector accounting, and the subtopic is disclosure of financial information by general government sector. So when talk about the general government sector, we are talking of those particular entities which are usually accountable to the public and which are also required to provide essential services to the members of the public. Here we are referring to the parastatals, we are referring to the central government, we are talking of the county government, and also we are talking of what we refer as the not-for-profit making organization. So all those particular entities are accountable to the public. On the other hand, they provide essential services to the members of of the public. Now, this particular standard here, that is IPSAS 22, it basically establishes the disclosure requirements by or basically establishes the disclosure requirement for financial information by what we refer as the general government sector. So the public sector entities, which information are they required to disclose in accordance with this particular standard. So therefore we can say that IPSAS 22 establishes the disclosure requirements, establishes disclosure requirements of financial information by the general government sector, the general government sector. So basically what that means is that IPSAS 22 here basically establishes, or it in other terms it outlines the information which need to be disclosed, or the financial information which need to be disclosed by the general government sectors, or basically by the public sector entities, by the public sector entities. And this particular information to be disclosed by the public sector entities is to enable the users of the financial statements prepared by such entities to assess their accountability, their financial performance, and also the financial position. So therefore we can say that IPSAS 22 establishes the disclosure requirements of financial information by general government sector to do what? To enable the users, assess accountability, financial performance, and financial position, by such entities, Then from there we can proceed and look on the key provisions, or basically the key requirements of IPSAS 22. So let's look on the key requirements of IPSAS 22. So the first key requirement of this particular standard here is something called the general government sector disclosure. So we can talk of the general government sector disclosures. Recall what you have said here, that the public sector entities, or basically what you're referring to as the general government sector entities, are required to disclose financial information about their financial performance, about their financial position, about their cash flows, and also about their physical sustainability, about their physical sustainability. So therefore, first of all, we can say that IPSAS 22 requires public sector entities to disclose financial information about their financial performance, about their financial position, cash flows, and their physical sustainability. So therefore, public sector entities are required to disclose information on their performance, cash flow, and their physical sustainability. Now, this particular information to be disclosed, we have said that enable the users of financial statements prepared by the public sector entities to do what? To have a comprehensive understanding of the financial activities, liabilities, and financial risk of what? Of the public sector entity. So therefore, we can say that these particular disclosures, should enable who? Should enable the users, or basically should provide the users, users with understanding on what refers the risks, which these particular entities face, that is the financial risk, their liabilities, etc. So therefore, we are saying that according to IPSAS 22, public sector entities, the general government sector, should disclose information about financial performance, position, cash flow, physical sustainability, and basically we are saying this information will help the users to do what? To understand the liabilities, the financial risk of the public sector entities. Then we can proceed and look on the other requirement at IPSAS 22, and that is the scope of the disclosure, So in this case, we'll talk about what refers the scope of the disclosure. Basically, we are talking of those particular entities which need to do what? To adhere to this particular standard. And also here, we are talking of the information to be disclosed by the public sector entities. So therefore, we can say here that IPSAS 22, number 1, will apply to what refers the general government sector. The general government sector, we have said, include the central government, local government. These also include now the parastatals or the statutory corporations, which must disclose financial and non-financial information. So therefore, we can say that IPSAS 22 applies to public sector entities, and must disclose the financial statements, their financial statement. In this case, when we talk about the financial statement of the public sector entities, we are talking of their income statement, or the statement of comprehensive income, statement of financial position, the cash flow, the statement of changes in equity, the statement of changes in what refers the net asset, and so on. So therefore, that disclosure must be made for financial statement and the accompanying notes. The accompanying note. The accompanying note, these are those particular notes which do what? Which accompany the financial statements. So therefore, this is the information to be disclosed: financial statements and also the accompanying notes, and which now will help now the users here to do what? To understand the various financial activities by what if as the public sector entities. Then from there we can look on the other requirement under IPSAS 22, and that is something called the disclosure framework. Disclosure framework. So when talk about the disclosure framework, a framework is like what? Like a guideline, or basically is like a standard regarding what need to be disclosed. Now in this case, we say that IPSAS 22 establishes a framework for the disclosure of financial information about the general government sector, about the general government sector. So we can say IPSAS 22 establishes disclosure framework for the general government sector, the general government sector. So it establishes a framework which governs the information to be disclosed by what if as the general government sector. So, and on the other hand, we can say that this particular framework basically ensures that the disclosure which is made by the general government sector or by the public sector entities is relevant, reliable, comparable, and understandable to the user. So therefore, we can say that the framework ensures that information disclosed is reliable, comparable, and understandable. That information which is disclosed is reliable, comparable, and also understandable. So basically, those are the three key requirements under IPSAS 22. That is general government sector disclosures, the scope of the disclosure, and the disclosure framework. So then finally, we look on the information which need to be disclosed by what if as the general government sector or by the public sector entity. So let's look on the disclosure, the disclosure requirements under IPSAS 22. Disclosure requirements under IPSAS 22. So which information need to be disclosed by what if as the public sector entities or the general government sector. So we can say IPSAS 22 requires disclosure to include the following. It requires the following information. Information to be disclosed by general government sector. General government sector. So here we have some information which need to be disclosed. Number one, we have information about the revenue expenses, and also what if as the transfer of general government sector. So we talk of the revenue, expenses, and transfers. So when talk about transfers here, we are talking of, for example, money transferred by the national government to the county government or a transfer from one government department to another. So that money transferred from one government department to another is basically what is a transfer. So the other information which also need to be disclosed is what if is the cash flows and the physical sustainability of the sector. The cash flows and physical sustainability of the sector. So that is the other information to be disclosed. Number 3 is information about what? Information about the assets, liabilities, and the net worth of the sector. And the net worth. Net worth is basically the difference now between assets and liabilities. So we are talking of assets, liabilities, and net worth. Net worth of the sector. Net worth of the sector. Net worth is, we have said, is like the difference between the assets and liabilities of what? Of the sector. So the other information which also need to be disclosed here is the significant accounting policies and the key assumptions in preparing the financial information. That is what? The significant accounting policies and the key assumptions. Significant accounting policies and the key assumptions. And key assumptions in preparing the financial information. So these are some of the specific disclosures, or basically some of the information which need to be disclosed in accordance with this particular standard here, that is IPSAS 22, which governs the disclosure of information, financial information about the general government sector. So we have an assignment here. So question number 1, explain the objective of IPSAS 22. Number 2, explain the specific disclosures under IPSAS 22. So make sure you attempt that assignment, and basically that brings us to the end of that session. See you in the next class.